Welcome back. But it seems to me that I should state which facts I do know as clearly and honestly as possible. Interesting. 'Tis not altogether pleasing, fella. I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGildred. Well, don't forget that you're supposed to be representing my best interest here, lad. Now then. A fella's memory is a curious thing and not altogether reliable. No, the court must consider the facts. That's a cubbyhole under the seat, which is empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps it would be in your best interest now to admit that you might have been mistaken? Why? What do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh on this matter, I think. The compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The Guild's rules state omnibuses should properly be fully equipped at all times, so it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fencer and his pickpocket purse are lying. I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers, nothing but cowards, a lot of them. What? Oh no. It's a trick. Of course it's a trick. Quite so, I must concur here. Damn, this is intense, I like it. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, counsel. But before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please. Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trail just shifted, almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, like always.
Hold it!
I mean, what's the point of spending a joy to make a few bob, eh? That's a rum idea, eh? Well, she means there's no point spending money to take money. It actually makes sense. Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief. Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, it does clear up the little mystery of the fares and all. For paying passengers a 5 piece apiece, making it 20 to which the cabman testified. And one little scapegoat riding for free. The red conch of a driver always goes for some grub before the last run, see? So that's when I slip in the carriage and get myself in under the seat. Nice and easy, right? But your hiding place is a storage compartment, full of equipment for the coach, no? Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much. And yet, according to the report filed with the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment which is full of such paraphernalia. Maybe like... Shiro, can you tell her how long that might be? How close I am to being done? The compartment was full of such paraphernalia. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell you. Ha! Seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue. Right, a waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night. Did you know? A waste of time. Why is that? Well, most nights I'm on my own and God permit at least some of the time. I beg your pardon, did you say God permit? Oh yeah. That's what my kind call it. You say the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while. And that's when you come out of your hiding place and get away. That's it. Only that night, this cove was sat on me from the start. He didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch. I was totally stuck. You mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time with one of Vincent Holden in the closed cabin. Yes. Right, mister. To be sure, I was shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat and find a child now, do you? So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit then. I'll tell you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see out in the cabin at all? Not a jot. Most days I push the cushion up with me head to look at the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at what I'm gonna fiddle. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. I mean, I can't have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other one, see? So most of the time the passengers plant themselves opposite. But for some reason that night, this there Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. And for that reason you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out, I see. Truth is, I ain't too happy in the small dark places. Feels so much like being thrown in the clink. But it's the only place I attend them carriages, so it's an Upton's choice. Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets and be wide open then? I'd say there's some reason she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor. So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to just stick it out into there. Nothing else for it. Then after a while, I hear this loud bang. Nearly jumped out of me skin. Did a scream just came out.
Hold it!
You heard a bang. When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor? Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember it so well. Point is, it made me jump. And you let out a scream, involuntarily. That's right, and I felt the cushion over me get lighter all of a sudden. Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes? Or not. It could equally have been the moment the accused stood in order to stab the victim. Could it not? Well, girl, do you see what happened at the crucial moment? Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and a quick butchered while I had the chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up and the bloke would fall onto the floor, seat opposite. That matches Mr. Gilder's account, of course. But then the fella suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but was too late by then. I should have never have risked it looking. And because of that, the swell found me. It did help me get away, mind.
Hold it!
The question is, the morning of the 24th. That is impossible. While I do wish you happy birthday, I cannot join you, for I am gonna be attending a ceremony at the time. He pulled you out from your hiding spot. I was scared stiffo as it dragged me out and sat me down in the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason. Yeah, the bloke had a knife in its guts. It was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit and ended up falling onto me. How awful. Both my hands got covered in blood. It made me feel sick as a dog. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He fell onto her. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGildred for a while. Is that correct? They asked me some stuff. Wanted to know the name and what I was up to and that. Then I heard something from up above. Someone screamed. Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume. Well, I didn't want no one seeing me face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up to Smartfish, and this here Irishman says to me, Get back under the seat. I'll see that you can get away later. All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent. For one brief shining moment, yes. It's clear that they're all still very unsure. We could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony. Should it be a cinch verdict we want? Yes, I think you're right. And I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me. But I just can't quite put my finger on it. I am a little lost on this one. There's a lot in the testimony, but there was no interruption from him.
Hold it! Well, no. Excuse me.
Oh, I do apologize. Was there something on the matter, Counsel? I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no. Twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass, is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was. I see, yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. Still scared of the dark now. Aye, and I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well. Yeah. I suppose it does, maybe. Miss Lestrade. Did you hear something that night? Anything unusual noise, perhaps? Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. But Jabbers, there's no need to tell the whole world to me fobbles, you little scamp. What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue. Yes. What should we make of that last statement of hers? Profoundly important. My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing. Yes, which is a profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it. I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern Mind Council. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating the last statement, please. Wow, supplement. What you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it won't work on me. That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move.
Hold it!
So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hid yourself. Not exactly, no. Sorry? Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's... So what was what? But then, when I saw the swell getting on, I got me head down and didn't notice me. Regardless, sat on the seat in which you were trying is correct. Yeah, would you Adam and Eve it, eh? What a mug. So then all I could do was listen. It was wanting to jump out of the seat as soon as I heard him leave, I see. But Woody, not likely. Even though he stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving. I'm driving his pigs to market, snoring like old dog he was. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? What you just told the court. It's clearly at odds with the facts. Huh? At odds? Are you sure, ma'am? Absolutely. It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. Van Zieks realized it too. Counsel! I must insist that you both your claim with evidence. Or some complicit party's name, at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGildred snoring. But think, Winesike, think. There's something else she should have heard. A particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person.
Take that!
It would seem phantoms are at work again. Oh shit, it wasn't his scream? Oh. Allow me to introduce you to a sound that would be very real indeed, however. Sound of your death throes. Yep. He's right. That was loud. She already commented she heard it. According to Miss Led, what was... While she was hiding in the omnibus, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGildred snoring, but I think... There's something else she should have heard. Well, she should have heard the Mason.
Take that!
Thrice Mason. Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Order, order. Explain your reasoning, counsel. Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on the board the omnibus. Is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got in while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person on board the omnibus was Mr. McGildred. That it was. Not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least, not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at the time. Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Though through the crack under the seat cushion. It was on its own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Weren't a swell to leave. In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. This pretty much thief statement is clearly flawed. Lord Van Zieks. Yes, he knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrade's statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths and nothing more. He's dead right. How could a victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. And this girl is a pickpocket. Let's not forget that. She didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways, but I must say, I can't abide liars, and neither can I. Mr. Foreman, I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways, but I must say, I cannot abide liars. No, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty. Well, your consideration for the others is refreshing. Eponine, friend. For the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing. What are you playing at? You've forgotten who you're working for. It's useless Easterner, Madden. The carnage. There's carnage. It's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going. I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGildred's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen. But those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Just chilling with his wine. Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. What are you saying? Counsel, I'm sorry, sir? Whatever do you mean? They got on at the same time! I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my education. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness to the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. He was put there after he died. Both three facts weren't going where my head was going. And I hate it. The other entrance is the window up top. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. Fuck, that is an entrance. Can you... But how? If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection!
I wondered what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other has only windows. Fixated windows, which cannot be possibly opened. In short, there is no entry to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes. One other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin?
Take that!
The answer is obvious. You could only have been through the skylight. I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost had me lost for words. However,
Objection!
the skylight may be well large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection!
So you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your addled brain theory? Both Mr. McGilden and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained, as the sound of the victim falling from his seat having been assaulted with a dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witnesses described? A noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact. Good gracious. Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
Objection!
You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight onto the cabin. That's simply impossible. How can you be so sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. and yet not one person made a mention of such events in their testimony. Well, yes, that's true, but... Might a humble fella make a wee comment here? Mr. McGildred. To be sure now that the two fellows who were sat on the roof that testified therefore said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight, but it seemed to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but... A case of being unable to say. What? I think perhaps two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree? Fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? My goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof? You mean the ones who stuck that knife in the man were... Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitherer? You rotter, he said. You rotter. What are you insinuating? This is the flaming outrage. I have a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. He'll give you a shiner than a minute, he said, and so will I. Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker, and me, a very angry hatter, suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts. It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too, about you rotten scoundrel. Man, that lady just types faster and faster. Order, order, order. This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. It's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Lord Van Zieks. It was the defense that incited this outburst for the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You propose at this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated their criminal guilt. In our British courts of law, that was termed as a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify. Huh? I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fellow. We have to see this matter through now, one way or another. If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. Testify. Testify. What's happening, Naruhodo? The spectators in the public gallery they're in a complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take the stand again to make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord. I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keeping pushing forward. Keeping pushing forward. We were the only two people up on the roof deck. Dead or alive, I can swear to that. If anything had happened while we were sitting, don't you think the other two of us would have noticed? In any case, neither of us knew the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. The skylight was shut the entire time. I tell you, we couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof? I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on an open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith. That's right. You see? We're innocent, I tell you. Although logically, of course, the argument falls down as two of you were in collusion with one another. What? Eh? According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Huh, well I do trust coppers, any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going on in our favor, really, so why do I feel so uneasy? Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. Refuting the accusation.
Hold it!
So at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to join you on the roof deck? Absolutely not. Deccan. No question about it, he said. None at all. Oh, but yes, of course. I remember seeing them both. I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here. Is this true, Mr. McGildred? Dear me, my lord, at the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately. That's an outright lie. Without doubt, we were engaged in. Let me stop you there, fella, and ask. Do you have any evidence at all? At all? Ah. There's all about evidence in the court these days, so it is. You do well to remember that. I saw you with my own eye. This is going so well. If anything had happened where we were sitting, don't you think one of the other of us would have noticed?
Hold it!
Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. Perhaps it had been dark, too dark to see clearly. It is some kind of lark. Some kind of joke, he said. Is this what it is? Or perhaps one of the other of you fell asleep briefly. Are you fair dinkum, sir? Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible, I tell you. I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep on that bitter cold. And if you did manage it, your eyelids would freeze shut and you'd never open them again. That's extreme. It's extreme, I tell you, and we have to put up with it because this man locked the door. Any true gent would have unlocked it and let me in when I knocked. I'm dreadfully sorry about that, young fella. But you see, I was away with the fairies and I didn't hear you at all. That's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. Now, 'twas a cold night, so it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. 'Tis hardly surprising. Seeing things. I like this guy's stance. It's great. Maybe we have reached an impasse here on this particular point. You. Don't take it personally now, lad. I'm a suspect in this case. It's only fair that you and the other fiend are too. Open and free competition is what capitalist society is all about. Since in competition I should like to be involved in, really. In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man.
Hold it!
So, you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before? Oh, lummy, no, not once, never. You never met the man before, he said. Never. And you, Mr. First, had no proper dealings with the victim either. That's right, sir. This Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir. No, I imagine not. You see, how many different ways could I put this? Neither of us have the remotest connection
Well, no.
to the gentlemen who were inside the cabin. Do we now? Excuse me. Mr. McGildred. Counsel, what can I be doing you for? Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest connection. Is that right now? I wonder. Well, what are you insinuating now? Mr. Fairplay, it has been so long. Too long, so it has. If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your repayment date. I beg your pardon? Hehe. You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir? At an unconsiderable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion. Well, now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? The sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass his crimes off on one another. And young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You be making hats for a living, do you not? That there top hat is sliding about your head. Is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, it's his apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. Heh, the perfect fit, isn't it? Well, it is a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers, such as Thrice-Friced Mason. Ah. There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence herefore, my lord. Oh yeah, this you mean. I can't help thinking that the poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh. That's one of my hats. Heh, aye, that it is. So it would seem the brickmaker was a customer of yours. Sort of customer I'd wager you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh no, sir, absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. It wouldn't be right to say that the two fellas here, the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case. You little weasel. Ah, he's better at this than I am. Gosh, Mr. Gizzard has certainly been through his research, hasn't he? Please don't let my little interruption hold up the proceedings.
Hold it!
Are you quite certain about that the skylight was shut the entire time? I'm going to lose my block with you in a minute. He's going to lose his rag with you in a minute. That's what he said. Take a look for yourself. Go on. You see, it's shut fast now, just like it was on the night. So it is, of course. A fellow the size of Mr. Mason could likely break right through it. Still and all. What? Just looking at the size of the thing, you understand. Now you hold on there a minute, sir. The size of the thing means nothing. Not on its own, let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we? Let's stop this biting our canes, shall we? I was riding the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke wind loudly. I shocked myself with it, as it happens. This is unexpected confession, Mr. First. Oh, I just mean to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But, just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went as red as rouge, I did. Are you expecting me to sentence you? Oh, no, sir. The point is, the skylight can't be opened. I tried and tried when I was inside the cabin as shame.
That ain't... Excuse me.
And what are you talking about? Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade? It opens. Huh? The skylight, that is what we're talking about, right? All them skylights open, deadly easy. More easily than you can load that weapon. That's a lie, I tell you, otherwise when I broke wind, You can't do it from inside, you mug. Oh. Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags. And I had a great haul, I had persons coming out of me ears. Lestrade, this is not the forum to be eulogizing on the subject of your criminal activities. Well, anyway, I had a bit of a scare when I lifted the last bloke's purse and got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't hop off the bus and leg it. So what I did is use a skylight to open the catch and jumped right through. What? Yeah, the catch for them skylights is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the cabin. The skylight opens from the roof deck. Bailiff, climb up onto the roof of the omnibus at once, and as this witness claims. On my hat. See? Order, order, order. It appears that the street girl's statement is quite true. I don't believe it. The skylight opens, and from the roof deck, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be the clue we've been looking for. Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. So the skylight opens. Perhaps I should investigate for myself. Skylight was fastened shut before, but now the catch has been undone, so we should be able to open it. Well, let's open the door. Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruto. Why someone like me? Ah, what is it? Look, just here. Look at this. That's, without question, it's blood. Why would there be blood stain in there? Surely it can't be unrelated to the case, can it?
Objection!
On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach, and immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight under the cabin below. Those are the facts, and the irrefutable proof remains clearly visible on the omnibus that stands before us today in the very courtroom. That's utter humbug. You can't possibly have any evidence. No, you can't. I mean, we didn't do what I tell you. It's impossible. Irrefutable proof. Here in this courtroom. Counsel, my lord. I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here. Where exactly within the omnibus is this evidence with you allude? You'll point out what it is that proves the victim fell from the roof deck through the skylight.
Got it!
By Jupiter, is that blood? This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open. What? And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my. And so it follows that Mr. McGilded, who was inside the enclosed cabin himself all the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime. Thank you. I like my reactions too. Order, order, order. Hold it. But the blood got sprayed up where the water bill was stabbed inside the cabin. And only found its way to that one particular spot on the skylight, sure. And that would be very convenient. And let's keep it in mind that the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I? But, there's no way to know for certain, is there? Is the gent really fell through the skylight, I mean? Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First? No footprint. 'Tis all too plain, if you see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fellow dropped from a fair height. Right there, so it is. What? No. But, it can't be. It's all lies. My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we? I believe we can, yes sir. It's clear to me now where the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom. So they thought they could pull wool over our eyes, did they? I won't tolerate any of the guilt's carriages being sullied with blood. I won't tolerate it. Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing. On three then, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Objection!
I knew it! I knew it! Something's wrong. A chilling performance, Mr. McGildred. Oh, and would you be referring to there now, Lord Van Zeeks? A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void. What? Why? For one extremely simple reason. That smear of blood never existed.
Objection!
What are you talking about? It's all there. It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood.
Objection!
I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute surety, no smear blood existed in that carriage.